Thank you for tuning in to the Socratic Neighbors podcast. Our first episode is about the difference between love as an emotion or an action. Or is there even a difference? Gotta love that intro.
See, it's
You can hear
we
you
can talk, but it's still with that
you
music
hear the
playing. It's a little
first.
harder.
Yeah, that's right.
I just noticed that though.
So, welcome to the Socratic Neighbors podcast. I'm Lotus, one of your hosts. My other host is with me. Introduce
And
yourself.
yeah, and you got QuicKarl here. I'm not that quick, but my name is Carl.
Wow. QuicKarl. Yeah. So how's your morning going so far, Mr. Carl?
Not too bad. I got my coffee, so that's some fuel. That'll
Right.
help.
Right, I got my tea over here, and Mrs. Lotus kissed me goodbye before she went to work this morning, so we're doing okay.
I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
And our third member is just watching intently. That's Bronco.
Yeah, he's probably got a curious look on his face, like you guys are.
Oh, we called his
insane.
name, and here he comes.
Oh, there he is. And so this morning, we're just gonna talk a little bit about love. So I'm a under 30 married man, and I've been married almost 4 years, so I kind of know what love is. I mean, you were married longer, right?
I was married 35 years.
35 years?
Yeah, and then my wife passed away last October.
Last October, okay.
Yeah. But, love is love. I mean, a lot of people will judge you on your actions as far as how you love someone.
Right.
But then again, it's also emotional because you can tell when you're having an emotion, but it's also an action.
Right. Right. I've always the show intends, for those listening, the show intends to be FCC compliant. So if QuicKarl or Lotus or myself swear at all, then it will be muted out. So, but anyway, I just want to get that out of the way before we start.
That's too bad.
But anyway, no, I marriage. I kind of agree with you, because marriage, the how you continue in the marriage requires action, not just emotion, because you're not always going to be emotionally prepared to love that person, because you're stuck with that person. And you're your own you're your own worst enemy when it comes to stuff like that. But it's also, they know you sometimes better than you know yourself. Almost. And so that emotional rift gets in the way sometimes, and so it requires action. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, what you said is true, but you shouldn't feel like you're stuck in a relationship.
Right.
Because if it's really not working, it might be time to move on.
Right.
But I would say this: you're early in your marriage. 4 years is still, you've been there in a while, but you're not. You have something invested in it, but your long range will change. Your love and your goals and everything will change over that period of time. And so what'll happen probably is, and it happened with me, is you get into a groove with your spouse where you guys find a comfort zone for both of you to be in. And that way, you're constantly not having to do stuff extra to make it work, because you found the space between the two of you that, okay, this works for both of us now. So then from then on, use that as a base to continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we've started to find that groove a little bit. I think it's just hard to know what the other person's thinking, and you can't ever know what the other person's thinking, which is kind of the whole point, really. You just gotta figure it out.
Yeah, sure.
There's a combined comfort with knowing that the other person is trying to do the same for you as you are for them.
Right. I mean, and you should feel that way.
Right.
It should be give and take, and not just giving or taking.
Correct. And sometimes it can feel one-sided for both people.
Oh, definitely. Even after 35 years of marriage, we had moments like that.
Right.
So, but since you have time invested in it, that's the time that you can work stuff out, or you can just accept it for what it is, because
Right.
you're not at a point where, well, this isn't working. We can discuss it or try to make it work, or you might just have to accept it. And it's like, well, we don't hate each other, and we still love each other, but maybe we're not showing it all the time. It's just we found that spot where, well, you might not be totally happy with everything that she's doing, or you might not be totally
I
happy.
heard him.
happy.
Sorry, I heard him. It's
What's
wriggle his chains. Sorry,
But
I heard him. Just shake. It's so funny.
good job, Bronco. You can accept the person because after a while, you know pretty much all their quirks and their idiosyncrasies, and it's like some of them may drive you crazy,
Right.
but you got to remember you have the same. They may be having the same issues with you.
Uh-huh.
So if you can accept that and not stress over it, then your life will be a lot easier because you'll be able to move on and still enjoy doing stuff together. All this little stuff is there, but you don't have to like dwell on it
Right.
to have a good relationship. Because once you start dwelling on it, it eats at you,
Right.
and when it starts eating at you, then you have a few options. You can confront the person and say, "Look, these things are bugging me," and if they can't change, then you have to go and find out what you need to do. Then
Right. Right. And that's really hard though. Is like whenever you bring up critiques or criticisms, things like that. It bugs. It can bug both of you that the other person has complaints and that you got to try and fix it. But the expectation can also be that I don't have to fix it if I don't want to. But at the same time, if you don't fix it, then then the problem's just going to get worse.
right, it will, and then there are consequences.
Right.
So you have to decide what your level of tolerance is. If she's doing something that's just driving you crazy, but you can live with it, then you can just live with it. But if it's got to the point where you can't get past it, you got to do something, because then you're on a treadmill where you're stuck and you
Right.
can't move forward.
So tying this back to our topic of love, emotion versus action, I think we've kind of discovered that it requires both, not necessarily that there is a difference, but it requires both for a personal relationship with somebody. And I bring this up because it seems to be a hot topic in the news lately with the trans movements and things like that, the feminist movements, and that you can just love anybody type thing, and the difference in it, like how it, like for me, because it's very hard for me because I'm a Christian, so it's hard for me to separate that because I'm an action based person, and for me to get emotionally invested in something is very impractical for me. But when my emotional investment is involved, then it requires a lot of my investment, and I'm going to continually to invest in something, and it makes my marriage sound objectified, but at the same time, in my head, that's how it works for my emotional involvement, because I have an emotional involvement, and I love my job, but I love my job to an objective sense, because my job I enjoy what I do, but at the same time it doesn't take like my marriage, because I have more emotional investment in my marriage takes precedence type thing. Whereas like I find an action, and the other thing that I wanted to talk about was that even if you love something emotionally, does it require an action?
Well, let's go back to your job a minute. You said that you love your job. Well, the action would be, do you love what you actually do?
Right.
And the next thing is,
Uh-huh.
are you all in with your emotion that you want to make sure you're committed to that, whether that you want everything should be great and you want to do extra stuff just to make it perfect. Are you all in with your emotion and your action with your job?
With my emotion, because I don't know how much emotion I have. Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know how much. I was gonna say how much. I don't know how much emotion I have with my job, but then again, I get upset when something's not done right.
Well,
that's
right.
definitely an emotional investment. But everybody gets upset, even if you work at McDonald's, if something's not done right,
Right.
and you see it the right way, then
If you have the attitude and the commitment.
Right, for sure. And I think like with mine, with my job, I just when I serve, because mine's a service. My job's a service type business. So when I do serve my clients, it's in a certain there has to be a certain amount of commitment and emotional involvement, I'd say, to a degree, to make sure that the client is happy. Because if the client's not happy, then my bosses aren't happy, and I'm not happy because I'm not able to recover. You can't. If your client's not happy, it's hard to recover when you make a mistake. Particularly when the client arrives on site right away, and there's something that's not right. And so I'm trying to be as vague as possible because
Right. Well, that's the semantics of the job. You've got to do all that. If you work somewhere, you want to do a good job.
Right.
That's just natural because it means more money and maybe a promotion down the road, and you want to feel good while you're at work.
Right.
So you're right. You want to get all that stuff done for your customer, but are you emotionally involved with it? Are you in your actions like, I love doing this for this person, or it's like, I need to get it done because it's a job?
No, I'd say it's the former versus the latter for me, particularly. I because there are days where I get to mess with gear I don't normally get to mess with all the time, and that's more my specialty. And so when I do get a chance to mess with that gear, I'm very anxious to impress not just the client itself, but the clients that the client has, type thing. So it's kind of a.
So you like the discovery part?
Yeah. I really do.
And then you learn more stuff.
Right, and I'm always of the belief themselves. For the clients themselves, I'm anxious to make them happy because I guess that's a prerequisite of my job. For me, I'm always of the belief that you can never stop learning. So I'm always anxious to find something new to learn about, whether that's programming or learning a new language, or figuring out that this technique works versus that technique, versus everything and everything in between. And I'm very invested in making sure that my skill set is, every time I expand my skill set, the stuff below it is firm. So it's kind of a creating
like a foundation,
creating foundations upon foundations. Like when you create a skyscraper,
right?
Every time you create a new level, the level below it has to support the level on top of it,
right? Yeah, that's right.
And so, I mean, my skyscraper in terms of my knowledge base is probably never going to end, but at the same time, and I think that's the part of the enjoyment and the love for me for my job.
So the question is now, do you feel all that enthusiasm with your marriage?
Yes. It probably more so.
Okay, good.
Because I think, like right now, my wife and I are having challenges with trying to have kids and things like that. And so, like the potential move that I talked to you about earlier this week,
right,
like that itself was kind of an obstacle to overcome. And when I was approached about it, I mean, it didn't come through, but when I was approached about it, it was like, well, I got to check with her first before I can even tell you that I'm okay with applying for it, type thing.
Yeah.
And my instinct is always to make sure that she's happy before we even make a decision. And when I approached her, she goes, yeah, let's do it. So it's really funny, like it's one of those things, like I don't know how she's gonna take it, and lo and behold, she's ready to move. For me, I think my marriage, there's just obstacles that I overcome, and I really like marriage. I don't know. I love marriage because I'm a problem solving type person, and I can't. And as a man, you always want to solve a problem. And with women, they don't always want the problem solved, Right. And so and as Ben Shapiro puts it, he's like, whenever my wife wants to talk to me about something, he always prefaces the question, and maybe I should start asking Mrs. Lotus about this, but he always prefaces the question to his wife: "Is this a problem you just want me to listen, or do you want me to solve?" And that's how I kind of starting to think about it more that way.
That's
and
interesting.
and it's a good listening to your wife type approach.
Do you feel like your wife's all in emotionally and act with it?
Oh, for sure, action? More so than me, probably.
Yeah, okay.
Emotionally, definitely. She's more of an emotional. The love types, she's more of an emotional love type person, so she's more invested. I know she's more invested emotionally than I am. Action wise, for the sake of the podcast, I'd probably say 50-50.
Yeah.
But I 4 years of marriage, I was talking to somebody at work the other day about it, and he was going to a blind date, and she got stood up, and she goes, "Oh man, I don't think I'll ever get married." And I said, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I just want you to know, speaking as a married man, almost 4 years, it's the craziest thing I've ever done." She's like, "I've never heard that from a guy before."
How old is she?
She's 21.
Young for
me. Yeah. Can't quite dip your toe in that pool.
No, that's all right.
That's too low for you, huh?
That's almost my granddaughter's age.
So what about your job? Do you work?
What's that?
I said, do you work now?
Well, I do investments.
You do investments. Okay. So, because I know you used to be a chef, right?
Right, I did.
So, did you love that job?
Yeah, I did. And like you were saying earlier, anytime I could learn a new job skill, that was excited. Because you have to do a lot of repetitive stuff. It's just part of the job. Mm-hmm. When you get a new project to work on or something new to make, and if you can get to learn a new skill on how to do something, then it makes it all that more exciting.
For sure.
So I still get excited about that, even though I'm not doing that right now. Anytime that I get challenged from someone, it's like, how do you make this, or what do you do there? And I haven't done it. I'm going to go out and learn how to do it, so that I can tell that person, okay, I've done it, and this is what we have to do to make it work.
Right.
So that kind of stuff excites me. The repetitive stuff is okay, but the plus side of having these skills, I can make great food, and I have something to look forward to eat.
Right.
So that part's good. But if I can learn something new and still make great food, then I'm ecstatic.
Right. And we're both burly guys, so we like food.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Of course. Exactly. I mean, I can tell I got a lot of weight. So, and as far as what I'm doing now, with my investing and stuff, it's just something I just have a true passion about. I just love. It's not work. I look at companies and watch market trends and follow all the news that's going on, and for me, I'm just an investment junkie. So there's no way that I'll ever get tired of doing it. and
it's pretty easy to do it from your couch too.
Now, yeah, that's true. It is.
You're right.
Netflix on.
Netflix on. eBay went up by 3 points.
Yeah. It sounds that easy, but if you really want to make some money, you really got to do some actual work. But yeah, that would be the passive investor way to go, and that would just be real boring to me, and I couldn't do that. But it's just it's a crapshoot. I mean, it's just like if you go out to Vegas and gamble out there, your odds are better if you invest because you have more control over where your money goes.
Right.
Where if you go out to Las Vegas and invest your money, it's really literally you hit and miss.
Right.
But you still get that adrenaline rush though when you win money either way.
Right. And I'm sure that's a big part is when the investments go up versus go down. But I think the nice thing about stock investment is definitely that you even if the stock goes down in value, you still have stock. It's just still some value attached
until you sell it. You still you're not out anything.
Right.
The thing too with that, getting back to that part, is that if you are in a relationship and you can find a common ground, that's something you both like to do. Like for me, like I'm recently widowed, so if I met a woman, I'm not looking for somebody to have a relationship.
Right.
But if I did, I would still have the emotion and do the action to love that person.
Mm-hmm.
But if they had common interests, like if I met somebody that was into investing like I was,
Mm-hmm.
then that would just add more love to the relationship because now I've got somebody that I'm in tune with. So some,
Right.
the old adage, opposites attract. Like a talkative person might be married to a quiet person, or vice versa.
Or or in my case, an outgoing person is married to an introverted person.
right, yeah, exactly. Or you like the house warm and they like it cold.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all that stuff. So there's where you run into uh, you you still might not agree with the person, but you're still gonna love them because besides all the stuff you don't agree with them with, you still find that common core thing. Whether it's
Right.
if you don't have any interest at all together, none, something still draws you to that person.
For sure.
And otherwise you wouldn't be with them at all, even if you are completely in different directions on everything.
True. And the influx for me in the investment in my marriage is that we still, at the end of the day, even if we're not doing stuff together, our values are very similar, and that mattered to me, because that mattered to me more than almost anything in terms of looking for a mate, because her investment was in creating a family, making sure that we would each be taken care of, making sure that things would happen. So this is probably going to be a rougher question for you. Do you still consider yourself married now that you're widowed?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I can't just go out and do something without thinking about her
Right.
because we did a lot of stuff together after all these years. And yeah, I mean, I'm emotionally there that we're still married. So sometimes I feel guilty about things that I think about because she's not with me.
That's the way to put it.
It's almost like I'm emotionally cheating on her.
Right.
Even though she's gone and people are telling me, well, you can move forward. It's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about stuff.
Right.
But I can't just let that go and turn it off. Everybody grieves differently. There's no one set rule like why it's going to take me 10 years to get over it or 6 months. And you may never get over it, and you might get over it right away. It's all how you will process it, and you can't let anybody tell you how to do it because we're all individuals. So and we didn't have a perfect marriage. I mean, we had our moments, And then going back to the love thing, you can argue with a person and get in fights with them, but it's still the fact that you're communicating with them. You might not agree with everything that they're talking about, but if you don't have that line of communication open, then it just gets worse, and then it starts building up inside of you, and it's better that if you disagree, get it out in the open. And then at the end of the day, just agree to maybe you have to disagree, but you can still be together. It's just that without the communication part, and like when I was married, I would say our communication was pretty good because my wife didn't have a problem saying what was on her mind, and I did sometimes. I like let a lot of stuff go, and there's a times that I didn't agree with her, but I just for the sake of the marriage, okay. I just went along with whatever she wanted to do. I wasn't always happy about it. That's where I still loved her, and I didn't like take the action of like, well, I'm going to fight you on this. It's more like I'm emotionally invested that if that's what you want to do, even though I don't agree with it, we'll do it.
And that's something I'm learning right now is picking your battles. Because
Yeah.
my mom always emphasized that she's like, when you get married, you got to pick your battles. Can't always fight about everything.
Right.
And
That's true too.
And so I'm starting to figure out more and more where the battle lines and the battlefronts should be, and if this is something that I really want to care about, or if this is something that
Yeah. Do you want a full blown battle or a skirmish?
right. And I'd say my war win battle percentage is probably like 15%.
That sounds about right.
I mean, like,
you're a guy, so that's
right.
what's going to happen.
And
I can tell you, mine was about 2%.
2%. Yeah, I think every battle my percentage keeps getting lower and lower and lower.
Yeah, it's like your wife can start every argument, because they're good at it.
Right, they are.
But you got to. But the guy's position really is okay. You can argue with him for a while, but then you just like suck it up, even though you know you're right, and just tell them, okay, you just give up, and then you let them. They think they won, so then everything's better because even though you didn't win that battle, your level with her is like, oh well, I'll make it up to him.
Yeah. Well, and that's funny because she because there was 2 Christmases ago that we didn't have hardly any money for because I mean we're trying to pay things off
and that's a
stuff
common
like that.
thing couples fight about is money.
Money, yeah, it is, and I think it's something like it's like 40% of marriages end because of some sort of financial reasoning.
Yeah, sure.
And of the marriages that are ending, 40% of those the filing reason is financial reasonings, and which is weird because divorce apparently costs a lot more than people think it does. Because you separate over money.
I guess if you go down to Tijuana and get a quickie, it's
right,
better.
Right. But anyway, so what was I saying? It's weird because I 2 Christmases ago we didn't have hardly any money, and so I said to her, "Don't buy me any gifts." And I strictly bought her gifts, and I went out and got her because she wanted a real tree, so I went out and got her a real tree, and got her all the presents that I thought she wanted. And the hard part for us in Christmas is that we shop for everybody in her family, everybody in mine, and she's got 2 sisters and a brother, and both her parents are still around. And then I've got 2 brothers and a sister, and both my parents are still around. So that's 8 people. No, that's 10 people that we're shopping for before we even shop for ourselves. So we made sure we had everybody else's gifts, and then the little money that we had left over, I bought her gifts with. And her birthday is right after Christmas, so it's really hard for me to make sure that the budget is in line
sure.
to get everything ready for her. And so the next year she was like, all right, well I'm only buying you gifts now, and so she flipped that around on me. And so it's kind of one of those things that you don't really. I wasn't anticipating the reward of that, but she made it very clear that that's what she's going to do, and she wouldn't let me deviate, even if I wanted to.
Well, here's the thing on trying to buy everybody a gift. I wouldn't do it personally.
Right.
If you got financial issues, the last thing you want to be doing is buying all these gifts for
well,
all your family.
When I say gifts, they were like stocking stuffers.
Okay,
type,
well that's fine
like,
too.
They were like,
maybe if you get them a little
like
something,
$4 or
that's
$5.
okay. But I mean, like a lot of big families, what they'll do is they'll draw names. Mm-hmm. So if you draw like your sister or brother's name or your dad's name or your mom, mm-hmm. then you buy that gift for them, and you have a limit. This is all you can spend. Uh-huh. So that's. But these are schematics.
Right.
They're just
I
options.
mean, our family. That same Christmas, our family almost tried to do that because there was 2 people in college, and my brother's trying to become a firefighter, so like he's stuck for cash as well. So
yeah, so you don't want to put any pressure on anybody that's got
right. And my parents were like, if you say you don't have the money, you don't have the money type thing, and so
you gotta worry about you and Amy. That's
right. And that's what that's what my mom
had
emphasized to me is that.
But Laura and I were the same way. It's like, well, we had kids, so we wanted to make sure they had their Christmas. Mm-hmm. But we didn't necessarily buy anything from each other. But it was all about the kids. Right. And you'll find that out too. If you're still having money issues and you have kids, it's for the kids.
Right. And yeah, and Amy and I have talked about that a lot. And it's kind of funny because we're on the same page when it comes to. Definitely on the same page when it comes to raising kids, and she's like, well, how are you going to emphasize this rule? And I said, if you have a rule and you exercise discipline, you can use me as a hammer. I said,
see, kids will play each other off of them though. If you tell them no when they go to the other one and they don't know they talk to you, sometimes they'll
and that's what my parents played. My parents played ping pong with us, so my mom was easier to. I always thought my mom was easier to sway than my dad, later in life now, I realize that my dad is easier to sway than my mom. But but the thing is my dad wouldn't do anything because my dad would be gone for 3 or 4 days at a time.
Right.
He would come home and just be in the middle of whatever's going on. And so the first thing I'd ask him is, oh, can I have this? And he'd be like, talk to your mother type thing. So then I go to my mom, talk to your dad, talk to your dad, talk to your father. So like they play ping pong with us.
Yeah, you're playing.
And
ping
so
pong
like
with
they play ping pong with us until they actually.
Basically,
talk.
they don't want to answer it, but if they don't give you an answer, then they don't have to deal with it. But you know what? I can see your dad not being the heavy. If he's gone and he comes home, he doesn't want to like be yelling at his kids the minute he walks in the door.
Correct.
He wants to be in a good position with them when he's home, because if he's not, and when he leaves again, they're gonna remember that. Like, I'm dreading Dad coming home because he's just gonna start yelling and screaming at everybody.
For sure. And my mom always made sure that my dad was kind of, and my parents were really happy when texting became a thing, because then my dad would be like, what's going on with the house? And so then my mom would make sure he knew everything that was going on before he even walked in the door.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew the, I guess, crap storm that he was walking into before he stepped in the door.
Well, I'm sure your mom tried to take care of stuff before he got there sometimes too, so that he wasn't like inundated with a bunch of problems.
Yeah, my mom always made sure that everything was in pretty good order. I'd say that she wasn't. I mean, she's not an OCD like everything has to be.
No, I
spick
understand.
And span.
But she probably tried to ease your dad's burden with everything.
Right, and so, but I mean, my mom would just make sure that the house was in order. The house would always be in order, and also my dad was also the enforcer. He was the
That's usually a dad's job.
And so if we got in trouble, my mom would discipline us. And then if we were still in trouble, she'd say, okay, you have the choice. I can discipline you again, and you can stop, or you can get it twice from your dad. Because this is the second time I've had to do it.
And that's where it usually works.
And that's the way it works. Yeah. And so usually you take the first option.
Right, of course. Why would you? Unless you're just stupid.
And so, and like, it's talking to my wife about stuff like that, Mrs. Lotus, she and I are very on the same page when it comes to stuff like that, because she's a petite person, so for her to bring the physical intimidation, it is going to be a bit difficult, I think, for her. But at the same time, she's got a bouncer of a husband, so it'll be pretty easy to lay the hammer down as far as that's concerned.
Do you see her taking control more than you will of your kids?
For sure. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, right. So do you think she's going to try to, if you're while working and she's at home with the kids, you think she's going to try to ease your burden before you come home?
I think so. We've talked about it. I think so.
Yeah, because the last thing you need to do is come home and then have to deal with a whole bunch of problems.
Right, and I don't expect to come home and
there's some things you'll have to deal with no matter what.
And I don't expect to come home and things be perfect.
Right, of course.
And it's just kind of the things that you walk into the door, and if she hasn't been talking to you,
you should open the door so you don't walk into it. Yeah, go ahead.
If you walk through the threshold of the door, and you just don't. Sometimes if she hasn't been talking to you all day, you just don't know what's going on.
Right. So, so that's where the texting thing could come in.
Right. And so you just kind of have to accept what's going on the other side of the door, and make sure that she's getting everything that needs to be taken care of done, and if that means cooking and cleaning and stuff like that, there's just chores that need to be doing, and that means I have to do it. And even after a 12.5-hour day, it means I still have to do it. And I run into situations like that now where I work 16 hours and I come home and dishes aren't done, laundry's not done, I still need to do this, I still need to do that.
So these are things she's going to have to step it up if you have kids, especially.
Yeah.
Because those kids are going to need stuff too.
And she works a lot. She works a lot, and it's kind of interesting to watch her grow. That's one of the really cool things about marriage, is watching, because because when you are growing, you don't always watch yourself grow. You know the experiences that you went through, but with the other person, you get to watch them grow with you. And so you kind of the accomplishments that you make are no longer individual, they're together. And that's something that I've really enjoyed as marriage, as far as marriage is concerned, because watching her grow from the time we were dating, because when we were dating, she didn't have any college done, and she didn't have a job. She didn't, she was living with her parents, and then now, I mean, that's what 6 years later, 7 years later, and she's ever since she's moved out here, she's always had a job. She's done enough college to get her associate's degree if she wants to, and I mean, she's gotten married. I mean, those are pretty big accomplishments.
Yeah. One thing you want to make sure too that you've got each other's backs in a way that if you decide to do something or she decides to do something, you're going to support her. Because I see a lot of marriages like that where the other spouse doesn't support somebody. Like let's say you want to open a new business, but if you don't have her on board, your life's going to be miserable trying to start that new business.
Or just this podcast.
Yeah, just the podcast,
like just the podcast.
Yeah, if she's not supporting you on it,
right?
Then it's just like, well, I'm going to do it anyway because it's something I want to do.
Right.
But then it'd be nicer if she was on board with it.
Right. And she the first thing, because when I brought up the podcast to her, she's like, well, how much is it going to cost me? And I said, it's probably going to cost the microphone. I said, I've already got the computer. I'll just use GarageBand for now. And she's like, okay, well, how much is the microphone going to cost? And I said, oh, let me shop around. And I'm not, you know me, I'm not one to make quick purchases.
No, not at all.
I take my time,
I do the same thing. I do the same thing.
And I found a good deal on the microphone, and so I mean, I already had the headsets and stuff like that. So we got our own little recording studio.
I kind of fly by my seat when I invest in trade stocks because you have to have a certain tolerance level to do what I do. But when it comes to buying stuff, yeah, I'm shopping around. I want to get the best deal.
Yeah, and I'm very frugal as much as I can be with my money.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And
are you part Scottish?
Part Scottish, yeah.
That explains it.
Yeah,
so is my wife.
Yeah, my most of my family's from the UK, so
can't help it.
No, can't. Honestly,
no, it's good. It's a good thing to be that way.
Yeah, and
it's nice to splurge once in a while too.
Yeah, and often when I splurge, it's to the benefit of Mrs. Lotus more than anything else. And I try and do, and it was funny. To end of February, she goes, well, you worked 4 weeks in a row. I said, okay. I said, I know I worked 4 weeks in a row because I came home at the end of the 4 weeks and I was flat on my face on the bed.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, well, I just kind of bought you something. And I was like, would you buy me? She goes, it's kind of expensive. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, there's a new toy for you waiting in your bedroom. I said, no, she said, not that kind of toy. And I said, okay, so what did you buy me? She says, oh, I bought you the newest console. And I said, really? She says, yeah. I said, and this is not something I would ever buy for myself. And so she's the type of person that I hum and haw about particularly purchases over $50. I hum and haw because I'm like, is this the best deal? Am I getting the best value? And most of the time, it's Mrs. Lotus that goes, do it, dummy, because you want it. You've been shopping around for the past 4 weeks, and I've had to listen to you hum and haw.
You know, one nice thing about living like we do in our situations, you can't accumulate a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you can. And I'm surprised how much stuff.
Oh, really? Because I've been pretty watchful of that.
Yeah, I'm surprised how much stuff we have.
Because I keep thinking, I don't have any room for any of this stuff. I guess I do, but it'd be really cluttered.
Yeah, and I don't know. Well, we're just in your house, and your house is pretty small, but we live in an apartment, so there's not a whole lot of space for a lot of things, and so we buy small things, and it fills the space that we do have.
Well, it's the old adage, like someday if you have a house, it's the old adage: you'll get a bigger house to fill it with more
More
stuff.
stuff, right.
It's a vicious cycle.
Right, it really is. But a lot of the stuff though that we've purchased, a lot of the stuff in the past, I'd say definitely in the past year, has been purchases in anticipation of a house. So like we bought an area rug, and we don't need an area rug, but we used it because there's a hole in a carpet, and so the apartment refuses to fix it. So I bought an area rug to cover the hole, and so it looks nice, and it serves a purpose because it matches our furniture. So, but anyway, so coming back to the original question, what do we decide on? Do we think love is an emotion or an action, or because I think
you're right though. I think it's both.
You think it's both?
I think yeah. I mean, it's two separate things.
Correct.
But they kind of play off of each other.
No,
if you have an emotion with somebody, and you don't do anything, not physically, not action wise, but you're having emotion. Like I could think about something I did with my wife, and now she's gone. So I can just sit there and not be moving or anything, and just start breaking down. So that's just an emotion that I'm going through without an action.
Well, and I mean, there's other emotions that are involved with that it can lead to worse thoughts, things like depression and stuff like that.
But I mean, I can just take the action of just like looking at a picture of her. Well, that's the action, so then I'm having an emotion from it.
Right, and there's definitely a correlation with that, and but I was kind of more getting at the point of and the conversation. This has been really interesting because this is definitely not the direction of the conversation I thought we would be doing. But for me, I think there's also a separation because with love as an emotion, I think of it as more of infatuation or affection, and then the action is what you choose to do with that. And there are things, I'm more of an action-based type person, so like I do things that help that are geared that way, and I see myself doing things in that way because that's what I'm able to do, and I'm not always emotionally equipped to do the right thing all the time. I didn't say the right thing, but do the thing that it gives the most emotional impact.
When you make the statement, "I love something," or "I love you," or "I love something," do you really love it though? Because let me give you an example. The Astros won a World Series. I love the Astros. They're my team. But do I actually love the Astros?
Right.
So that emotion is I'm excited. So I might say something like I love this or I love that. Or are you having this big microphone? I love that. Do I really love that microphone? Not emotionally. But I just love it because it's cool. But it's also I think love is a term that gets used a lot for a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily you're not emotionally involved in using it. You don't have that emotional spent that you would have if you. Love is one of those words that gets thrown around very easily, but you don't always have the emotion bank that goes with saying that all the time. So you have to kind of like pick and choose when you use that term. Is this a time where I emotionally do love this, or that
you're saying that the context matters in which it's being used?
It doesn't. You can use love very freely, but I think you have to separate because I think the word love gets used so much it gets diluted.
Right.
And it's probably not.
Yeah, and I think we're talking. I think that's where the cross play for me is. I was anticipating talking, I guess, more material love, and then we ended up talking more emotional love as an investment.
But I mean, it still goes under the emotion and action.
Right, and it still falls under the topic.
Yeah, you can love material stuff, but you're not going to be emotionally spent on it. Like, you might love that computer. But you're not going to necessarily love that computer. So if it breaks down, you'll get it fixed or get another one, but there's no emotion attachment to it.
Right. Or in the case of some people, they do get things repaired or.
Oh yeah. Well, some people actually love their stuff. I mean, they
Right.
literally are spent. Like if that computer got broke, yeah, you'd be mad, but you would get over it.
Right.
But if that computer broke and you loved that computer, then you'd be sad
Right.
for a long time. Not just initially because it's broke and you're sad, but you never got over it. Years from now, you're thinking, I love that computer and I miss it every day.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, particularly when it comes to, I think that's also how, like, for me, for my first car, there will always be
Oh, sure. There's an
always
emotional
there's
attachment
an emotional
there.
attachment
Of
to your
course.
first car, and for my first car is a Chevrolet.
And you probably loved that
Chevrolet
first car.
Cobalt, yeah, and it is a bare bones car, and everybody I talked to called it a piece of crap, and I was like,
But it was your car.
but it was my car.
That's right.
And the thing is the thing I really enjoyed about it is that I knew how to. The other thing is I knew how to fix it.
Right.
And so I think that's part of where my emotional investment for the car came from, and I was sad to lose that car.
And it's always nice when you can work on a car that you own because anymore with all the computers and everything, it's tough.
Yeah.
My first car was a '69 Chevy Impala, and it was easy to work on.
Yeah, and this car is very easy to work on. It was manual transmission. It had an inline four cylinder, and it didn't even have cruise control.
People could you loved that car because you could work on it and you knew everything about that car and it was your car. And somebody else could have a car and love that car. They don't know how to work on it. They just like driving it.
Right.
But they still love that car. But their emotional attachment is maybe different from yours, but you both still love your cars.
Right. And the other thing that really you kind of sparked my brain about is that how our emotional attachment to pets as well.
Oh yeah.
Dogs.
Sure.
Because we have two dogs and you have our third co-host here. And so I think that, like, when it comes to dogs, there's a huge investment in that because you have to. It's constantly something that you have to take care of, and if you don't take care of it, then there's consequences that.
Well,
just like in marriage, there's
right.
consequences if you don't take care of it.
It's yeah, and more so because you're responsible for making sure that they have food and water and they go out and these are all things you're responsible for. The dog or cat or whatever you have can't make that decision. You have to do it for them. So it's almost like raising a kid.
Right.
It is, and the emotional attachment is, like in my case, if I didn't have that dog, I'd probably be a wreck right now after losing my wife and my dad a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have that dog right now, and it was really my wife's dog, I don't know where I'd be. And he almost got hit by a car a few weeks ago. So if he would have got hit by that car, I would have probably lost it. So not only is he my dog, he's my son. He's my family member.
Right.
Yeah. So he's not. So my emotional attachment to him is that I do love him, and my action for loving him is I take care of him and get him things that toys and stuff and food, snacks. But he is a family member. I don't look at him as a dog. Where some people look at their dogs like objects. Well, he's just a pet.
Right.
To me, that's not.
I used to look at when I was a kid, I used to look at my pets that way. Is that they're just a pet.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And at the end of the day, a dog's a dog, and I definitely feel the same way about our dogs, very similarly. Because and our dogs, believe it or not, have made me come around to the idea of having kids. Because I wasn't sure about kids until we got dogs. And once we got dogs, it's like all of a sudden you have something that's there all the time. They greet you. They're like happy to see you. There's discipline involved. You have to make sure that things get taken care of. It's all an investment of your time and energy, and it requires your attention. And if you don't give a dog attention, and I've started to be more attentive to what the dogs want, because it's like I can't just come home and do nothing or sit at the TV and play video games type thing. Like the dogs want to see me. So it's like I have to. I spend time with the dogs because they haven't seen me all day. They want to play. They want to do. They want to do things, and if they don't get that, then they start acting out. And I've noticed that the more attention that I give them, the more likely they are to relax and just sleep.
Right,
like
right.
that, because you want to get them to that point where they're not being a pain in the
Well,
butt.
see, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of people are on their phones all the time.
Uh-huh.
Well, you can't do that and give your dog attention.
Mm-hmm.
They wanna be in your lap. They want you petting them. They want to play. And if you're on your phone, looking at stuff or texting stuff, they're not getting that emotional support, and that happens with regular people. I mean, if you and your spouse are on your phones all the time, or you're in your computers all the time, I granted, with our day and age, you're gonna spend some time on there, but you still need to put all that stuff away and spend some time together. And I see it with kids, and you don't have kids yet, but I see parents with kids. They're looking at their phones, and their kids are all running around the place. I see them in the park. Somebody could just walk up and grab a kid, and their parent is over on the bench texting or looking at something. They're not even watching their kid.
Mm-hmm.
So your kid is going to grow up, if you don't make that emotional commitment to pay attention to them. They're going to grow up doing the same thing. I see kids now. They're looking at iPads. They're looking at phones. There's no interaction. It's sad because they love that iPad. They love that phone. The kids do, and the parents do.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're going back to it's an object. You might love it, but it's not something you want to give emotional support to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because
it's our day and age, you have to separate.
And there's no return, like with an object. There's no return on investment either.
No, I mean, you might see somebody responded to something and said something nice to you.
Right.
You might feel good for a second.
And for the podcast.
Or if they send you a picture or something, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Well, and the picture for the podcast, the microphone, like it gives us good audio, but that's all it's ever gonna do. Right. It's not gonna. If I tell it I love it, it's not gonna turn around and wake up and be like, oh, I love you too.
Like I went at Christmas time, I saw all the family members. There's like 18 of them. They're all on their phones.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking. I'm the only one that's got my phone in my pocket. So I gave everybody books for Christmas. Put your phone down. Open a book.
Right. Well, and like my parents we're Christian, so it was not Shabbat, but it's similar to Shabbat that we just, for Sundays, no electronics. So we couldn't watch TV.
That's good.
We couldn't do that. And there was only special occasions that we would watch TV on Sundays. It would be like there's some sporting event. But that's like everybody in the family got together and watched the sporting event. It would be like the Super Bowl Sunday or
right, sure.
Or Formula One or something like that, But I think the return, like for dogs and cats, there is a certain amount of return on investment when you emotionally invest yourself in a dog or a cat. Because like with my dog, my puppy, because we have two dogs. My wife has her dog. They're both. She'll swear up and down that they're our dogs, but really, she's got her little 23-pound Basenji, and then I've got my Black Lab mix. My 50-pound Black Lab mix, and we went to the tennis courts. This was last summer, and we went to the tennis courts, and I was batting around balls, and the dog was chasing me, and then all of a sudden the dog started limping, and it's hot out, and I didn't even think about it when we went to the dog, and she melted her paws on the court, and she was that dedicated. Like I got really mad at myself because you realize that the dog is that dedicated to help you, to want to be with you, willing to go out onto a hot tennis court and burn her own paws to just play.
And not only that, they also have that emotional support where they get protective.
Right.
Like if somebody did something to you, they're going to be right in their face. They've got your back.
Right. And so the dog had melted. So the dog had melted the pads on her paws.
Wow.
I was distraught, and there was a debate between me and my wife to take her to the vet or not take her to the vet, and I did some research online, and I found that the vet's not really going to do a whole lot except give you some ointments and stuff like that, and that's over the counter stuff that you can buy for humans that works on dogs, and then there's also dog burn cream. So I went and bought burn cream for the dog. I covered her pads and all in the burn cream, and covered her booties, and then she couldn't walk, so I had to pick her up. And we live on the 3rd floor, so I had to pick her up, take her down the 3rd floor, take her down from the 3rd floor, and I had to walk her around and find her a place to go to the bathroom, so that she could go to the bathroom, pick her up again, and and so that for both myself and the dog, that really cemented our relationship really well, because she then knew from then on she could trust me to make sure that she was taken care of. And at the same time, she returns that, because now anytime somebody gets something close and I don't say hi to them, she's in their face. She's ready to.
Right.
And that dog is very a very outgoing type dog. She's very friendly with everybody, and I mean, you've met her, and so she'll buddy up with anybody. And my wife and I used to have this joke that she would let the robbers in and take whatever she wants. Just give me a treat. And now I don't know. I don't.
No, she probably would, but if you were there in the house with her, that'd be a different story.
Right. And I think there's a certain amount of protection that comes along with that, and I think that's where an emotional involvement with dogs and stuff comes into play.
Like my dog is small, but he's got that alpha male thing, and when small dogs especially are very controlling when they're the only dog. When they're the only dog, where I live, that's their house or their apartment. That's theirs. You live there, but they control what goes on. So when you get up to walk somewhere or do something, and the dog decides you're not in an area that you need to be in right now, he'll come over and start growling and jumping around, and it's like, running in front of me, making a lot of noise. It's like, no, you're confined to this area. You're not allowed over here right now. But that's just the way they get. They become those little dogs, especially, become real territorial.
Yeah, they're very territorial. Especially male dogs, very territorial.
Yeah, they're almost like, I guess a give me an example is like a dog that's a sheep herder. All the sheep, they get everything going one way or whatever, and they have that kind of mentality. It's like, we're hurting you, and I'm in charge, and this is where you need to be right now.
So to wrap up, what do you think?
I think it was a good conversation. I think we stayed on topic for the most part.
For the most part.
And you know what? It's hard to stay totally on a topic. You're going to branch off because there's things that can relate to the topic. This is like a tree. We start with the tree, but then there's limbs that branch out that we have to address.
Right.
But they all connect back to what we're originally talking about.
So, all right. So, have you picked out a next topic for us to talk about?
No, but I think we should surprise our listeners.
We should surprise the listeners?
At least for now, and then in the future, we can give them a topic. But the nice thing about surprising them is, if they don't like the topic, they may not tune in. This way, they're already on, so they're
obligated to listen to the rest of this.
Well, they can always turn it off, but it'll be their loss.
Right. So, anyway, to close out, I'm Lotus, and you can find both QuicKarl and I. We're going to probably set up a Gmail account so that people can send in their questions or correct us if we've got anything wrong. Though we didn't deal with a whole lot of facts today. It was more...
Yeah, this is just our pilot episode, and we're talking back and forth about a lot of stuff that it's a little rough, real rough, but...
Yeah, this is a bit of a rough...
I don't think we're ever going to have a perfect podcast because we're really not professionals.
No.
But that's the beauty of what we do.
Correct.
We're not paid professionals to come answer all your questions or anything.
Right.
So you can probably relate to what we're doing, and people can listen to this, and we can always put it in our lost episodes.
Right. This is our trial run, so we got to figure out how well this sounds.
Yeah, of course, if you have comments or things we could do different, by all means, let us know.
For sure. Send it in. We'll create some sort of Gmail account, and then hopefully the next episode, we'll have that up and running so that people can send in their comments, questions, or concerns, and they can tell me to shove off or something, you know. But we'll.
You know what? I can give them my iCloud email address, and we can use that.
No, we'll just set up a Gmail. It'll be easy. That way, the YouTube account and all that stuff stays with the Gmail account. So it's all
that's fine.
one account.
But the email I was going to give is easy to remember.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So you want to give it?
Yeah, I'll give it. It's LUV, the number 2, and FRT at iCloud.com.
I think we should end there.